Number 4 on this list arrived every Thursday evening and told a British family exactly which songs the whole country was singing that week. And number 1 was watched twice every week by more than half the people in this entire nation, all of them sitting down at the very same moment to look in on the same cobbled street. 6 programs. That is what a British family gathered round in 1970, in a front room with a single television set in the corner, a set that very often still showed the world in black and white, because color was new and dear, and most homes did not have it yet. There was no choosing what to watch. Not really, because there were only 3 channels, and no way to record a thing, and no second chance to see it. If it was on, you watched it, together, or you missed it forever, and everyone talked about it the next day without you. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next video, because we're only just getting started on the Britain worth remembering. Number 1. Coronation Street. It had begun back on the 9th of December 1960, the creation of a young Salford writer named Tony Warren, a twice-weekly visit to a cobbled terraced street in a fictional northern town, with its corner shop and its pub, the Rover's Return, at the heart of everything. And in December of 1970, it turned 10 years old, already a national institution. What almost nobody outside Britain could quite believe is how many people watched it. Episode after episode was seen by between 18 and 21 million people, in a country of some 55 million, which meant that when the street was on, a third of the entire nation was watching the same half hour at the same time. What everyone remembers is the theme tune, that lonely cornet playing over the rooftops, and the feeling that these were people you knew. Ina Sharples in her hairnet in the snug, the gossip over the counter, the dramas of ordinary lives lived out on a street that felt like your own. It is still running today, the longest-running television soap opera in the world, but the country that once stopped altogether to watch it has scattered across 1,000 channels. The next program made the whole nation laugh at once. Number 2. Morecambe and Wise. Eric Morecambe and Ernie Wise, 2 men who had worked the variety halls together since they were boys, and by 1970 they were on the BBC, and they were on their way to becoming the most loved double act this country has ever produced. Eric with his glasses pushed skew and the slap of Ernie's cheek, the pair of them in bed together like something entirely innocent from an older world. The plays what Ernie wrote, the famous guests who queued up to be gloriously humiliated. What everyone remembers is that this was comedy the whole family watched together, the grandmother and the father and the smallest child all laughing at the very same moment in the same room. There was nothing in it that a child could not watch, and nothing so simple that a grown-up did not roar. Their Christmas shows would go on to draw audiences of well over 20 million, half the country, all laughing together on the same evening, a thing that has quite simply never happened since and never can again. Eric Morecambe died far too young. In 1977, the nation had no idea how few of those Christmases were left, and something in the shared life of the country went quiet with him. The next program sent the children behind the sofa. Number 3. Doctor Who. On the 3rd of January 1970, a British child sat down in front of the television and watched a brand new doctor arrive. The third man to play the part, Jon Pertwee, all frills and velvet and a fast little car, and for the very first time, the whole strange adventure was in color, though in most homes it still played out in shades of gray. What almost nobody remembers now is that this new doctor had been exiled to Earth by his own people, which was, in truth, a way for the BBC to save money on the sets, and out of that thrift came some of the most frightening stories the program ever told. What everyone remembers is the fear, the wonderful safe fear of a Saturday tea time, the plastic shop dummies cracking their hands open and stepping out of the shop windows to kill, and a generation of children watching from behind the settee, too terrified to look and far too gripped to leave. The music alone, that unearthly wail, could empty a room of small children in seconds. The program is still with us, off and on, but the front room, where the whole family jumped at once, has gone. The next program told you what the whole country was singing. Number 4, Top of the Pops. Every Thursday evening, the BBC counted down the pop charts, the singles that the whole country was buying that week, played by the bands themselves where it could get them, and it was, for a young person in 1970, the single most important half hour of the week. It had started back in 1964, and by 1970, it was the place where the whole nation found out what was number 1. What everyone remembers is that this was how the generations argued, gently, in the front room. The teenagers leaned in close, and the father, in his chair, asked whether that was a boy or a girl up there on the screen, and made the same remark he made every week about the hair and the noise. It was the sound of the new pushing against the old, all of it contained in one bright, loud half hour on a Thursday night. And the next morning, in every playground in the land, the children argued about who had been on. It ran for decades, and then it too came to an end, and now the charts arrive silently, on 100 million separate screens, and no family argues about them in the front room anymore. Before we go on, I want to ask you something. One of these programs is not really a program in your memory. It is a room. Your family, all of you, in the one warm room in the house, watching the same thing together. Tell me in the comments which one just put you back in that room. I read every single one. The next program was the whole of Saturday night. Number 5. The Saturday Night Variety Show. Saturday night in 1970 had a shape, and that shape was light entertainment, the big bright variety show that the whole family sat down to together after tea. The singers in their dinner jackets, the comedians with their quick-fire gags, the dancers, the novelty acts, the whole glittering parade of it, hosted by a smiling man in a bow tie who felt, for those few hours, like a member of the family. Whether it was the gentle Irish charm of Val Doonican in his rocking chair and his mad jumpers, or the big song and dance spectaculars, this was how Britain spent its Saturday evenings, all together, in front of the one set. What everyone remembers is that it asked nothing of you, but that you sit and be entertained. The whole family, from the youngest to the oldest, no one left out, nothing to divide you. It was warm, and it was safe, and it was shared, and it went on late enough to feel like a treat for a child allowed to stay up. That kind of television, the kind that gathered every age in one room on a Saturday night, has almost entirely gone, broken apart into 1,000 separate screens in 1,000 separate rooms. The last program on this list was the one that brought the whole world into the room. Number 6. The News. In the corner of the evening, at the same time each night, the news, and in 1970, there was no escaping it and no avoiding it. One bulletin that the whole nation watched, more or less together. The newsreader in his suit and tie, grave and trusted, the single voice that told the country what had happened that day. What everyone remembers from that particular year is a drama that played out live, in April of 1970, when 3 American astronauts, halfway to the moon, heard a bang and radioed home that they had a problem, and for 4 days, the whole world held its breath. Nearly 30 million people in this country watched and waited, gathered round the set, praying for men they had never met, and when the little capsule finally came down safe into the sea, a nation that had watched together wept with relief together. That was the power of it. When there were only a few channels and one shared evening, the whole country felt the same things at the same time, joy and fear and grief, all in the same hour, in millions of front rooms lit by the same gray glow. 6 programs. The cobbled street that half the nation visited twice a week. The 2 comedians who made the whole country laugh at once. The doctor who sent the children behind the sofa. The Thursday chart show the teenagers lived for, the Saturday night variety that gathered every age in one room, the news that brought the whole world home. None of them were watched alone. They were watched together, the whole family in the one warm room, and the next day, the whole country had seen the same thing and could talk about it. We don't just remember the programs. We remember the room and the people we watched them with. Which one did your family gather round? Who were you sitting with? Tell me in the comments. One program, one memory. Subscribe, because there is a great deal more of this country left to remember.